It's March 2024, Frankfurt Airport. A Lufthansa Airbus A340-600 powers up for departure to Buenos Aires, 11 hours, 5,600 miles, 4 engines. In the row behind it, a Lufthansa A350 awaits pushback for São Paulo, 12 hours, 6,000 miles, 2 engines, 40% less fuel burn, 30% lower operating costs, both aircraft, same airline, same continent, same day. The A350 represents everything modern aviation values: efficiency, range, economics. The A340 represents everything the industry abandoned: 4 engines drinking fuel like prohibition just ended, maintenance costs that make accountants weep, and a passenger-to-thrust ratio that physics barely tolerates. So why does Lufthansa, Germany's flagship carrier, an airline that prides itself on precision and efficiency, still operate 17 A340-600s in 2024? The easy answer: they're waiting for replacements. Transition takes time. The planes still fly, so milk them for residual value. Lufthansa isn't tolerating these aircraft. They're choosing them actively, deliberately, against every modern aviation principle. This is the story of why the worst flagship aircraft of the 21st century became absolutely essential to one of Europe's largest airlines. It's a story about promises made, physics ignored, and a peculiar moment when inefficiency became strategy. Airbus unveils the A340-600, the longest twin-aisle aircraft ever built, 246 feet tip to tail, designed to carry 380 passengers up to 7,900 nautical miles. The pitch to airlines: ultra-long-haul capability without ETOPS restrictions. ETOPS, extended operations, the rules governing how far twin-engine aircraft can fly from diversion airports. In 1997, even the newest twins faced limitations. The A340, with 4 engines, faced none. Airbus marketing called it the aircraft that goes the distance. They weren't wrong exactly, but they weren't right either. The A340-600 stretched the A340-300 fuselage by 27 feet, added passenger capacity, increased maximum takeoff weight to 826,000 pounds. But the engines, 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 500s, produced just 53,000 pounds of thrust each. Total, 212,000 pounds of thrust for 826,000 pounds of aircraft. The Boeing 777-300ER, carrying similar passenger loads to similar ranges, uses 2 engines producing 115,000 pounds each. Total, 230,000 pounds of thrust for 775,000 pounds of aircraft. The math wasn't theoretical, it was operational. The A340-600 couldn't maintain altitude on 3 engines at maximum weight. Read that again. At MTOW, if you lost an engine, you were descending. Period. No amount of pilot skill changes thrust-to-weight ratio. Singapore Airlines ordered the A340-500, shorter range variant, for their New York-Singapore non-stop. After 2 years of operation, they quietly switched to 777-200 LRs. Fuel costs were eating them alive. Emirates ordered the A340-600 as a 777 supplement. After delivery, they realized the 777 could do everything the A340 did: faster, cheaper, and on 2 engines. Virgin Atlantic, Thai Airways, South African Airways, they all bought A340-600s in the early 2000s. They all retired them by 2016. Some aircraft flew less than 12 years before scrapping. That's catastrophic for aviation economics. By 2006, Boeing's 737 was outselling the entire A340 family 10-1. They weren't naive. Lufthansa Technik, the airline's maintenance division, is one of the most sophisticated engineering operations in commercial aviation. They knew the numbers, but they ordered anyway. And here's the detail nobody talks about. While other airlines were dumping A340-600s after a decade, Lufthansa kept flying theirs, refurbished them, invested in them. As of 2024, 17 remain in service. Not mothballed, not stored, flying. The question isn't why they bought them. The question is, why do they still fly them? And the answer is far stranger than they're waiting for replacements. Ask Lufthansa publicly, and they'll tell you fleet transition takes time. The A340-600s serve long-haul routes effectively while we await A350 and 787 deliveries. It's not a lie exactly, but it's not the whole truth. Because here's what doesn't add up. Lufthansa has received their A350s, 21 of them as of 2024. They could retire the A340-600 fleet tomorrow and reassign routes. Some would need adjustments, but it's operationally feasible. They don't. Instead, both aircraft types fly alongside each other. Same routes, same months, sometimes same day. Why? To understand, we need to talk about something airlines never discuss publicly: slot strategy. Frankfurt Airport is Lufthansa's primary hub. It's also one of Europe's most slot-constrained airports, landing and takeoff permissions. Airports only have so many runways, air traffic control only handles so much traffic. So airports allocate specific time windows, slots, to airlines. Slots are valuable. At premium airports like Frankfurt, Heathrow, or Tokyo Narita, they're worth millions of dollars each. Here's the catch. European regulations include use it or lose it provisions. If an airline doesn't use a slot for a certain percentage of a season, currently 80%, they forfeit it. The airport reallocates it to competitors. Now here's where it gets interesting. Lufthansa holds slots for long-haul departures at specific times from Frankfurt, times their corporate customers prefer, times that optimize connections from European feeder flights, premium times, morning departures to Asia, evening departures to South America. If they can't operate those flights, they lose those slots. Pandemic, global aviation collapses. Lufthansa, like every airline, parks aircraft, slashes schedules, burns through cash, recovery begins, demand returns faster than aircraft can be reactivated. The airline industry faces severe shortages. Pilots need recurrency training. Maintenance facilities are backlogged. New aircraft deliveries face delays. Boeing 787 production issues, Airbus supply chain constraints. Lufthansa faces a specific crisis. They don't have enough aircraft to maintain their slot portfolio at Frankfurt. They've retired their A380s, except a few recently reactivated. Their 747-8s are being phased out. A350 deliveries are steady but slow, and their most valuable long-haul slots, Buenos Aires, Bangalore, Mexico City, are at risk. So they face a choice. Option A: surrender premium slots they've held for decades, let competitors take them, lose long-term strategic position. Option B: find any aircraft that can fly those routes, even if it loses money on fuel, even if it's inefficient, even if it's the A340-600. They chose option B. But here's what makes this strategy work. The A340-600, for all its flaws, has one massive advantage nobody talks about. It's already paid for. Airlines account for aircraft costs through depreciation. The A340-600s Lufthansa operates are 15-20 years old. They're fully depreciated. The capital cost is zero. Yes, fuel burn is horrendous. Yes, maintenance is expensive. But compared to losing a slot worth $5 to $10 million, the math suddenly works. Especially when you consider these aircraft would be stored or scrapped otherwise. Storage costs money, scrapping generates minimal return. But flying them, even at a loss, protects the slot. Look at where Lufthansa deploys A340-600s in 2024. Frankfurt to Buenos Aires, Frankfurt to Mexico City, Munich to Johannesburg. These aren't high-frequency routes. They're long, thin routes, high distance, lower passenger volume, routes where frequency matters more than capacity, routes where keeping the slot matters more than profitability. And here's the telling detail. On many of these routes, Lufthansa operates the A340-600 seasonally. They use it during lower demand periods. When passenger numbers justify a more efficient aircraft, they swap in an A350. This isn't about waiting for replacements. This is slot protection strategy disguised as fleet operations. An A340-600 burns roughly 240,000 pounds of fuel on a Frankfurt-Buenos Aires flight, 11 hours. At current jet fuel prices, approximately $2.80 per gallon, that's about $100,000 in fuel alone. One direction. An A350-900 on the same route burns about 165,000 pounds, that's $70,000 in fuel. Difference, $30,000 per flight. 2 flights per week, 50 weeks per year, $3 million in excess fuel costs per route. Add maintenance premiums, 4 engines instead of 2, older systems, parts scarcity, and you're easily at $4 to $5 million per year in excess costs per aircraft. 17 aircraft, let's be conservative, $60–70 million annually in extra costs compared to modern alternatives. So, why is Lufthansa okay with this? Because losing those slots would cost far more. Consider Buenos Aires. Lufthansa holds one of few daily slots from Frankfurt to Latin America during premium departure windows. If they surrender it, who takes it? LATAM Airlines, One World Alliance, Air France, SkyTeam, British Airways, One World, all competitors. All would love a Frankfurt-Buenos Aires slot. Once Lufthansa loses it, getting it back is nearly impossible. Slots don't get returned easily, and even if one becomes available, the airline would pay millions to reclaim it. So the calculation isn't, should we spend $70 million keeping A340s flying? It's, should we spend $70 million keeping A340s flying or forfeit $200 million in long-term slot value and strategic market position? Suddenly, 4 fuel-guzzling engines make perfect sense. Other airlines make similar calculations. They just don't involve aircraft as obviously inefficient as the A340-600, so nobody notices. Air France operates older 777-300ERs on routes where A350s would be more efficient, but they need the capacity flexibility and slot protection. Emirates keeps A380s flying on routes where 777Xs would be more economical, but passenger experience and slot timing justify it. Airlines optimize for strategy, not efficiency. Fuel costs matter, but market position matters more. The A340-600 is just the most visible example of this principle because the efficiency gap is so enormous. On one hand, slot regulations exist to prevent hoarding. Use it or lose it ensures airports maximize capacity. On the other hand, it creates perverse incentives. Airlines fly aircraft they shouldn't. They add frequencies nobody needs. They operate at losses just to protect territory. Is a Frankfurt-Buenos Aires flight burning 40% more fuel than necessary justified by protecting a slot? Environmentally? No. Economically for the airline? Yes. Systemically for the industry? That's the question we should be asking.